I think people take into account that the situation is very serious, but with political will, we'll have to survive and to save the euro, and I hope everything will go right on this.
You referred to during the discussion as a little piece of paper what the intergovernmental treaty that's been drafted up at the moment. Why did you refer to it as that? Is that all it is to you, a little piece of paper?
Because up to now it's a piece of paper, no? It's something written on paper. It's not a big thing. It's not approved. It's not ratified yet. It's a paper. I think maybe underneath my words was the fact that it was a strange paper on the institutional way.
Why is it strange?
Why? Because it's a treaty outside the treaties, but yet you use the institutions and with different kinds of majorities and so on and so forth.
So do you think it'll work? Or?
Well, we will see. I hope so.
You said you were an optimist earlier, so...
Now, I think it's a little bit too shy. I think it will work, but it will not be enough to solve the crisis. That's the point. But I think it's a good step.
So what, in your opinion, is enough? What do we need to solve the crisis?
We need a number of other steps and more share of responsibilities of budgetary and economic policies of the member states of the euro in Brussels. But for that, you need to have more political legitimacy in Brussels. So it's not so easy.
So what do you propose to do? What do you propose in your book?
What I propose in my book is that to supplement the legitimacy given already by the European Parliament, you will have some representations of national parliaments in Brussels with some powers on decisions to take by the 17.
Certainly it's not just a small piece of paper if 1 or 2 or 3 member states attach considerable political importance to having that paper. I'm not part of the negotiations. I am outside the work of the European Union for the moment. My general impression is that most of what is covered in substance in this paper already exists in the form of secondary legislation. So immediately I don't see very much added value in the piece of paper, but that a piece of paper does not have a lot of added value in substantial terms does not mean that it cannot be very important in political terms.
The eurozone problem cannot be solved just by the new treaty that the Germans are so keen to have. There needs to be something done to promote growth in the peripheral countries, Ireland, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Italy. And there needs to be in the short term greater European Central Bank intervention in the markets to buy government bonds. And at the moment the Germans are opposed to ECB intervention. They're also opposed to a Eurobond scheme to allow everybody to borrow collectively, and they seem to be coming round belatedly to some sort of growth initiative, which is desirable. But the treaty in itself won't solve any problems. It's just introducing strict rules on government borrowing, which are already being passed through legislation. The treaty has one function only, which is to reassure the Germans that those strict rules on borrowing will be respected and enforced, and that hopefully will make the Germans feel relaxed enough to change their policies on ECB interventions, Eurobonds and much else.
I'm an optimist by nature, and I have a fairly long experience in Brussels. I have been here for more than 30 years and have seen many crises. But I must say that the present crisis is a particular one. In the past, it has basically been a question about if you are moving faster or slower, if you stop the movement or even go back a bit. Today there is a small but existing risk that things could collapse, that somehow the situation escapes you. I don't think the risk is very big, but it is something which we should be conscious of.
And who should we blame?
Well, I don't know who we should be blaming. We have probably made mistakes, all of us who have been engaged in European construction. There are things which we should have done otherwise. It is true that the Economic and Monetary Union had an economic part which was very feeble, which certainly needed to be strengthened. I think, for instance, we made a mistake by opening up the capital market without ensuring that we had sufficient control measures, sufficient insight in what the capital market was doing. So we have made mistakes in the past. Now we have to try to correct these mistakes. We certainly also have to make sure that things that we allowed, permitted, like uncontrolled deficit spending, will not happen in the future. But there I do think that I'm not so worried about a Greek crisis or an Italian situation being represent itself in 10 or 15 years' time. I think we have all learned the lessons. We have all seen what the consequences can be of us ignoring the basic rules set out in the EMU Treaty, and that lesson will not be forgotten. Certainly the market will not forget the lesson, and they will not be as lenient with us as they were in the past.
Most of the problems in the EU are not caused by the fact that there are too many people around the table. The problems particularly are caused in the relationship between like Italy and Germany, or Greece and Germany, or Britain and France, which are not particularly a result of the enlargements of 2004 and 2007. I do think there's a lot of enlargement fatigue, so we're not going to get much more enlargement in the next few years.
But I think the first condition is that we overcome the present crisis. I think if we don't overcome this crisis, people will, and they will be right, lose faith in the European Union. So I see basically no other answer than laboring on and try to get us past this particular bad movement.
I think it's quite plausible to imagine the UK leaving the European Union within the next 10 years, because public opinion is very hostile. There's a clear majority against membership. Many Conservatives want to have a referendum on membership. So what you need to leave is a government, a Tory government, committed to holding a referendum on membership, holding that referendum, and then the vote could well be to pull out. And Boris Johnson, who's one of the likely candidates to replace David Cameron as Prime Minister if and when Cameron retires, and if the Tories keep winning elections, is committed to referendums. I think a Boris Johnson government could take Britain out of Europe through a referendum.